You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Latest edition of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball from your friends at MILB.com and MLB Pipeline. My name is Tyler Mon, joined from New York City for this first edition of 2023 as the podcast gains new clarity and momentum and stability. It's Sam Dykstra. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Tyler. I don't have much news about the break. Like, I had a nice break like everybody else. It was a good 2-week break. You have the biggest news of the break. You want to share it with the good people who are listening?
Yeah, I got Leica some bully sticks. It was big. It was big. I actually didn't even. My mom did. My mom got Leica and Birdie, our two Australian cattle dogs, some bully sticks, and they're very happy with them.
You got down on one knee on Christmas Day and gave one to each.
I said, "Here you girls go. Enjoy. Go have fun." I did get down on one knee on Christmas Day. I am an engaged fellow now. So to all of you listeners who are hoping one day you're going to snatch that podcast guy up, I'm sorry to disappoint you. But somebody who doesn't listen to the podcast is now engaged to be wed to me. I did text Josh Jackson when it happened, just like I texted you. You, by the way, were the only person to call me. So I appreciate that.
I mean, I wanted you to hear my excitement.
He's a gentleman.
I know voice notes are a thing, but like,
he's a gentleman, folks. Yeah. Sam Dykstra, it does not get better than Sam Dykstra on this planet. But I texted Josh and said, "Well, I'm engaged," and Josh responded in all caps, "To be married." But yeah,
I'm currently doing something. I'm engaged. I just wanted you to know, Josh.
It happened, and I'm pretty excited about it, man. Pretty excited.
I'm excited for you.
Thanks,
I mean, that's
dude.
Thanks. And not to play like the role of your father, because you have one of those, but just be like, we were waiting for this. We all wanted this day to come.
It's funny. I was texting with John Nolan, radio voice of the Fort Wayne Tin Caps, and John said, "What's funny is I actually checked your Instagram shortly before I saw the news, because I felt like it was probably time. We had been waiting long enough." So John knew it was coming. And a big congrats to him, by the way. John got married on New Year's Eve.
I was going to say, John went viral.
Yeah.
At one point, because he said he was going to enter to Edwin Diaz's, song.
Narcos.
Yeah, to Narcos. And if he got enough likes, he cleared that part very
easily. Because I'm pretty sure
finally came.
Edwin Diaz or somebody with the Mets retweeted it, and it was like, if I get however many retweets, we'll enter to Narcos. And then it was within an hour.
Yeah.
By the way, that song came out in 2017. That song is just everywhere in the sports landscape now. As some folks know, I'm a college basketball and hockey broadcaster. Every arena that I've been to this year, they have played Narcos. I had never heard that song before Edwin Diaz this year.
Well, it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day too, because I was watching something about Irish rugby, and they were playing Shipping Up to Boston at Irish rugby.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is how stuff starts now, is closer entrance music. It's just true. Here's a song that is designed to get you pumped up in a very crucial moment of a baseball game. And then everybody's like, oh, that really does work. And then they steal it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hell's Bells, Enter Sandman. I'm sure all that stuff peaked after those guys.
It's fascinating that way. I listened to an episode of Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend a few months ago, in which he was talking with Jack White. He was talking with Jack White about Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes, and Jack White was like, I never envisioned that as a sports anthem. And he said, in fact, that was one of the songs that we were least enthused about on the album. And they had a documentary being recorded about that album production process. They only had one take of the recording process for Seven Nation Army, and that was that. And now, Seven Nation Army is one of the biggest sports anthems in history. So anyway, that's very off-topic start to this week's episode of this show, ostensibly about minor league baseball. I also have to shout out University of Denver Pioneers strength and conditioning coach Evan Morton is just sitting in this room right now listening to one half of this podcast, and I would imagine is very confused. It's like, what is this show supposed to be about? It's just rambling about hats and getting engaged and things. It's very
just tell him very smart things are happening on the other side.
Yes, exactly. It's the other side is where all the intelligent part of this conversation is coming, because none of it is coming from here. So with that, let's dive into this week's episode of the show before the show. Thanks for tuning in. As noted, as we alluded to, we're going to keep this thing rolling in 2023, and we're very excited about that. And we are going to kick it off by talking about, sort of where things head in 2023 from a prospect standpoint, by giving you some New Year's resolutions for each division across the game of Major League Baseball when it comes to prospects and their climb toward the big leagues. As always, you can get in touch with the show, podcast@milb.com. You can find us all on Twitter and everywhere else. Sam is at Sam Dykstra, MILB. I am at Tyler Mon. And Sam, let's go for it. Are we starting junior circuit or senior circuit? American League or National League?
I've come around the last few years where I think AL always goes first on stuff. So let's start with the NL.
Okay, Red Sox fan.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Let's start with the NL. It's always been American League starts first because it's alphabetical. But who says?
Okay, all right, I like it. I'm gonna let you dive in then with the National League East, the loaded National League East, which produced the NL pennant winners in 2022, the Philadelphia Phillies. They produced Narcos. I mean, they didn't actually produce Narcos, but Narcos became a thing because of the National League East. Although, one thing that I learned this year while doing some baseball coverage, did you know that the Narcos thing started when Edwin Diaz was actually a member of the Seattle Mariners? I did not know that, and Ryan Roland Smith told me that.
It sounds familiar that was a thing.
I did not.
It just really blew. I remember seeing some tweets in 2020 just being like, imagine what it's going to be like when this is blaring over a full field. And for some reason, it just caught fire. I guess because, he was arguably pitch for pitch the best pitcher in baseball this year.
And it had to do with the production, the way it's SNY, right?
Yes.
Who does Mets games, the way they were doing his entrance where they had the cinematic camera that was following him in from the bullpen, the whole production with his entrance turned into a thing. And it was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk entirely about Edwin Diaz on this, or Narcos and Timmy Trumpet on this week's episode of the show before the show, but we are going to dive in with the National League East first. Sam, kick us off.
Yeah. So you mentioned, obviously we've talked about the Mets, and the Phillies just won the pennant, and the Braves won a World Series title in 2021. A lot has been happening in the NL East. I'm going to go the other direction because it's typically what we do when we talk about farm systems. I'm going to stick my resolution for the NL East to the Washington Nationals, and they should resolve to finish the season with a top 5 system. You look at, obviously, they traded Juan Soto last year and built up the system that way, getting guys like Mackenzie Gore and CJ Abrams, who are graduated prospects. They don't affect the farm system itself, but getting, a James Wood, getting a Robert Hassel III, they got some pieces there that help build up the system. Also, Jarlene Susana is a big arm that they acquired. They drafted Elijah Green. Christian Vaccaro was one of the best international prospects coming into this season, was pretty good, but has a lot of tools. He just needs experience. So as those guys continue to grow, this system could really build out. And the big thing underlining this is that they have the number 2 overall pick coming up in July. After going through, the first ever draft lottery, they came out with a number 2 overall pick, which means they're not going to have the pick, they're not going to be able to take necessarily a Dylan Cruz or somebody number 1, but they're going to get a chance to get everybody else. And that can be a huge swing like they made last year with Elijah Green. So the Nats, if this is going to work, they really need to start developing the guys that they did acquire. They need to do a good job in the draft. And if they end this year with a top 5 system, I think it's much easier sell to say hey, I know we traded Juan Soto a year and a half ago, but this is what we're building for. We're building towards a contender. Because if that doesn't happen, and if they have a number 11 or 12 system, and some of these guys kind of not flail out, but don't reach their potential. Cade Cavalli has another rough year, something like that. Brady House doesn't keep coming around after he had a rough debut season this year, it's going to be much tougher to swallow that they let go of Juan Soto. So that should be the resolve in Washington, in the nation's capital this year. Get a top 5 system, win the draft, win in development, see where things stand at the end of the year. Tyler, you got anything in mind for this division?
No, I mean, I think that's where things really stand right now. You know, you look at what the Marlins have been able to graduate in recent years. Obviously, they've had some really impressive talent. The other 3 teams in that division, whether playing in World Series, winning World Series, contending for a World Series, they're sort of on the map. But the Nats, man, I mean, that team they went from winning a World Series to being ghosts, and they've got to get that next chapter figured out. And obviously, there have been a lot of different things that have gone into that situation with the ownership and all that. But yeah, that I think is very accurate for the National League East. I just say accurate. I was thinking of the Akron Sauerkraut Balls, which we're going to talk about in segment number 3 with Benjamin Hill today. All right, we're going to go to the National League Central. And Sam, you sent a list of kind of the topics that you had sort of honed in on for each division. And I like what you had for the National League Central, which is Jordan Walker and the St. Louis Cardinals. Jordan Walker is too good to be held down in any way. Now, granted, Jordan Walker was a third base prospect when he was drafted and was a guy who got into an organization and looked like, well, he's the third baseman of the future. And then all of a sudden that team was able to land Nolan Arenado and $50 million cash from the Colorado Rockies somehow. So the pathway is somewhat blocked for Jordan Walker. But while getting adjusted to playing different positions last year, he played 70 games at third base for Double-A Springfield. He also got a lot of work in the outfield. He played 4 games in center field, 2 games in left field, 25 games in right field. This is a dude who did not let any of that shut him down, because he still was able to hit 306 with an 898 OPS, 19 homers, 68 runs batted in. He stole 22 bags, and he did that all in Double-A at 20 years old. He turned 20 last season on May 22nd. So he started the season as a teenager in Double-A, went on to the Arizona Fall League last year, only played in 21 games in the AFL, but he hit 286 there, even though the power was, just right in line with what he did. There wasn't a massive step forward or a massive step back against, high-level pitching in the AFL. He's a very dependable, straightforward talent. Just let Jordan Walker press his way to the big leagues. If Jordan Walker is ready this year at 21, find a spot for him somewhere. Maybe he's not going to be your third baseman of the future because you have a guy who's won 8,000 Gold Gloves already in Nolan Arenado. But if Jordan Walker can be there, let Jordan Walker be there. Let him dictate his route to the major leagues. The Cardinals, already an extraordinarily good team, which has found the ability to just continually reload year after year. That guy's a huge piece coming up. And if you can get him to the big leagues this year at 21, let it happen, man. Let this dude figure out his own route to get there and where he can contribute most.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I want to underline here is when I put that down, I essentially mean if the spring goes as we expected for Jordan Walker, put him on the opening day roster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, the reason they sent him to the AFL, one of the reasons, besides just getting more at bats and more experience, was to experience the outfield more. And guess what? He had one of the best arms, if not the best arm in the AFL this year. The arm plays. Like, there's a rivalry between him and Mason Wynn as to who has the strongest arm. And Mason Wynn has arguably the strongest arm in all of baseball, outside of pitching.
What was in the futures game? 103 miles an hour across a diamond? Something crazy for Mason Wynn?
He was hitting triple digits. And Jordan Walker was also throwing laser beams from right field. Yeah. I mean, he still has some reads he has to work out, but he could very well be this year's Julio Rodriguez. Julio Rodriguez similarly skipped over AAA. The new incentives to start a guy on the opening day roster if he's ready worked in Julio Rodriguez's favor last year. Jordan Walker is in line for that as well. I know the Cardinals have outfielders. Like, that's not a place where they're necessarily shallow. But Jordan Walker at his ceiling is better than anybody that they have currently playing the grass. And if you're the Cardinals and you want to take that division, let Jordan Walker cook, man. Put him in that lineup. The power is going to play. He's still growing into it, which is a weird thing to say. But it's plus raw power right now, easily. And you put him in that lineup, you let him bat like 7th right away. Like, you don't need him to be your cleanup hitter, because you have Goldschmidt, you have Nolan Arenado, you just signed Wilson Contreras. They have the power bats. That's not a big issue. But just give him an opportunity, and he'll do what he's done everywhere in his career. He might struggle a little bit in the beginning, but he'll find his way.
Yep.
And he's somebody you want as the face of your franchise, or one of the many free faces of your franchise, as he could be in St. Louis.
Yeah. And that really is, I mean, that's such a key for young guys like that, is the fact that there might be some struggles, but if you throw him into the deep end, he figures out how to swim pretty quickly. This isn't a situation where you anticipate that Jordan Walker is going to go, even if he ends up, starting the season in Memphis, you don't anticipate that he's going to struggle much there after maybe some initial bumps in the road, because he's just so quick to adapt to the levels. I mean, to get adjusted to Double-A at 19 is not an easy thing to do, and he handled Double-A, I don't want to say with ease, but he certainly made it look easy. So that's what's up next for the St. Louis Cardinals. The National League West, Sam.
Yeah, so for the National League West, I'm going to go to the Arizona Diamondbacks system. Obviously a very loaded system right now, a system I'm pretty high on in terms of guys that they already have that are close to being major league ready. I mean, Corbin Carroll is major league ready. You got playing time there last year. Brandon Pfaadt was one of the best strikeout artists of this entire century so far in the minor leagues last year, breaking the 200 strikeout mark. They also have other guys like Ryan Nelson and Dre Jameson with major league experience. So the Diamondbacks are kind of getting there in terms of, I thought they were somebody who could be a sneaky contender to make a playoff spot this year. And then they had an interesting trade with Dalton Varsho, sending him to Toronto, but they get Gabriel Moreno next. Moreno can be their catcher of the future. They're still interesting, I think. But I say all of that to say I'm going to punt it further down the road a little bit. And my resolution for them for this year involves Drew Jones, who was last year's first round pick for them. Some people thought he was the best talent in the draft. He ends up going number 2 overall after Jackson Holliday went first overall to the Orioles. But my one thing for him is be healthy. He had a season-ending left shoulder injury that he suffered in a round of batting practice. It was a freak injury. Stuff like that happens. It's a little worrisome that it happened so early in his career, but again, freak thing. Guys come back from shoulder injuries. Corbin Carroll came back from a shoulder injury, so not a big deal. So let's get Drew Jones healthy for this year. Get him as many at-bats as possible. And if all of his tools play, there's a decent chance that he ends up at the end of the year as a candidate, at least, to be the number 1 overall prospect in baseball. Look at what his scouting grades are right now. There are people think he has plus power in there. It's plus speed. It's plus fielding tools. He might be, the second he steps onto an outfield grass, one of the best defenders in all of minor league baseball. Not a huge surprise given his name and who his father was, but still notable in its own right that he's already a plus runner and covers a lot of ground out there, has the arm for center field. Not a concern at all. It's almost to the point where if he hits his ceiling, you have Corbin Carroll, who's an elite runner himself, and Alec Thomas, who's a really good defender in his own right. Those guys move to corners to make room for Drew Jones by 2025, 2026. So big thing for Drew Jones. The thing I'm resolving for him, just be healthy this year. Put the season-ending shoulder injury behind you. Let it not be a concern. Get a full year of at-bats under you. And if your tools play like they could, I mean, like I said, he could be top 3 overall at the end of the year, if not top 1.
So that is the National League. The American League is coming up after a break on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast.
Well, as we roll along here on the Show Before the Show, we did start with the senior circuit, which means, of course, that the junior circuit follows next in our New Year's resolutions, going division by division. Tyler, I'm going to throw it to you with the AL East. Obviously, some pretty good systems in here. We've got the Yankees, some questions about who they're going to be at shortstop with Anthony Volpe and Oswald Peraza coming up next. The Red Sox have some sorting out to do, but they have some pretty good prospects in their own right. But we're probably looking at the number 1 system in baseball in the Baltimore Orioles still. So what is your resolution for the AL East?
Yeah, for the Baltimore Orioles, don't be afraid to let your top prospects lead the way. And speaking specifically about Grayson Rodriguez, we know how close Grayson Rodriguez was to being at the big league level last year. He was set, really, we felt like maybe one more start than Grayson Rodriguez was going to be in Baltimore. And in that final start in AAA with Norfolk, he had a grade 2 right lat strain that put him on the injured list. And he wasn't able to come back and be the guy who we thought he might be able to be toward the end of the season for the O's. If Grayson Rodriguez is ready, let him be in Baltimore. We saw enough from him at Norfolk last year, the climb that he has made through the minor league system. It really felt like, all right, this dude doesn't really have anything left to prove. Last year, he pitched at 3 different levels. Now, obviously, part of that was rehab. But his 14 starts in AAA, 6-1 record at 2.20 ERA. He struck out 97 in 69 and 2/3 innings, 178 opponents average against, a 0.93 whip. If Grayson Rodriguez looks like Grayson Rodriguez in spring training, let him be on your opening day roster. Let that guy go to work and pitch in, pun, for a team that last year was really in the mix for a postseason berth until very late in the year. And not only that, but get him up there to work with Adley Rutschman. Get him up there to be, in the rotation and on the mound on the days when Gunnar Henderson is doing what Gunnar Henderson does. Like, there are so many bright pieces in Baltimore in that system. Some of the frustration over this offseason was, why aren't the Orioles doing more to try to bring in something? Well, you've got some really exciting pieces that you'll be bringing up. Maybe it isn't quite the same splash as what some free agency moves could have been. But if Grayson Rodriguez is ready, could you imagine an opening day squad that included, let's just fantasize for a moment and say Grayson Rodriguez starting, throwing to Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson behind you in the infield. There's a lot of really exciting stuff going on in Baltimore.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there in terms of, I always had this offseason circled of like, this is when the O's need to spend. This is when they need to supplement the guys they have coming up. And that hasn't happened, really. Like, they have not gone out there and just like gone out and bought a starter.
Yeah.
That could really like be a number 2 or number 3 and put them over the hump. That being said, okay, if that's what you're going to do, if you are going to lean on these guys, and I think Gunnar Henderson, he's going to be their opening day shortstop or third baseman. Yep. We'll see where they decide to stick guys, but like, he'll be in the opening day lineup. Adley Rutschman is arguably a top 2 catcher in baseball right now. So the next piece of that triumvirate is Grayson Rodriguez. Now, we talked to him on the podcast at the end of last year as he was coming back from that lat strain that you mentioned, Tyler, and he said he felt ready end of September. Like, he thought he was basically waiting on a call. Like, I will pitch wherever they want me to, but like, I could go 95 pitches right now if that's what they're going. And part of it was, maybe they didn't think he looked fully ready. He only threw 5 innings in his last start. It's not like he got into the 6th inning. So I kind of get that. And you don't want to push him too hard, have something wrong happen at the end of the year. There might be some service time stuff playing into that as well. But again, if you have the incentive to call up a guy late, like they did with Gunnar Henderson still has rookie eligibility. They start him on the opening day roster. They are still eligible for those incentives. So Grayson Rodriguez has at least 5 pitches that are above average to plus, to even plus, like in terms of his fastball, slider, and change. Those are all at least plus. Everything's there. He just needs health. And I think he's going to prove that, knock on wood, week in and week out this spring. And if it ends up where we think it would be, start him in your rotation. He's probably already your number 3 or number 4 starter.
Yeah.
And could very well end the year as your number 2 or maybe even ace. We could be looking at, I was talking before about Julio Rodriguez with Jordan Walker. Grayson Rodriguez could be the Spencer Strider of the Orioles this year. Like, just give him opportunities. And Strider was like maybe a bullpen piece at the beginning of the year. That's never going to be the case with Rodriguez. He's all rotation all the way. So as long as he's healthy, getting 140 innings ish, he's definitely in the rookie of the year conversation.
Yeah. All right, Sam, let's go to the American League Central. Now, the Cleveland Guardians last year, 92-70. That was the worst record for a division winner in baseball. And there was not a lot behind them. The White Sox finished at 81-81. They were the next best team in that division. 3 teams sub 500. But who stands out to you as far as resolutions go from the American League Central?
Yeah, so I'll stick with that Guardians team, and maybe the most electric pitching prospect when he pitches. I want to be clear on that. When he pitches, this guy is the most electric I think we saw in 2022 was Daniel Espino. So speaking of health for Grayson Rodriguez, my hope for Daniel Espino is just health, because he missed out a lot of last season with injuries, multiple injuries. It seemed like, just when one was calming down, then he developed another one. It was tough to hear. I think it was a knee and a shoulder. But so I just want him to get innings after last year, because I remember hearing out of the spring, he was touching triple digits. His slider was like low 90s. It was incredible how much speed he was getting on the slider and the late movement. Guys were thinking, coming out of the spring, he's basically major league ready now. He only ends up getting 4 AA starts. So I want to see a point where, Daniel Espino, his career high for innings in a season is 91 2/3. Part of that is the pandemic. Part of that is the injuries like we talked about last year. I would love to see him get 120 innings. I also love to see some of those innings come in the major leagues, which I think is definitely possible for him in the second half. Maybe they translate him to the bullpen late, just to keep those innings capped and, lower the concerns on the injuries. But, the Guardians know how to develop these guys. They keep having pop-up pitching prospects. It started with Shane Bieber, but you're looking at like Gavin Williams now, and Tanner Bibby and Logan Allen, and Daniel Espino's not, I won't say better than Shane Bieber, but like he's better than anybody in their pitching prospect crop right now. And I think if he just gets regular starts, he's going to be the talking point of the season, one of the talking points. And I know we don't talk too much about pitching prospects now just because they break down a lot, and there is that inherent risk. Hello to Forrest Whitley, the former, first pitching prospect in baseball, who's fallen off a cliff because of multiple injuries. But just let's get Daniel Espino healthy and watch what that fastball and slider can do, because those are two really, really special pitches.
All right. To the American League West we go. And if there is one team that needs hope more than potentially any other team in baseball, it is the Oakland Athletics. It is not an easy time to be an A's fan for a lot of reasons, but what could be exciting for A's fans is got a lot of talent in that system right now. The Athletics are a team that comes into this season, coming out of our 2022 season, ending rankings with 3 top 100 prospects in Tyler Soderstrom, Ken Waldachuk, and Zach Galoff. These are the thing that's so weird about the A's. It feels like the A's for the last, 5 years have had like 12 different top 10 catching prospects, like top 10 catching prospects across baseball. Now, obviously, Sean Murphy is gone now, traded to Atlanta, but they continue to just regenerate depth there. There are some really impressive pieces, and there are some guys that are, younger who are going to be climbing those ranks. Daniel Susak, who, of course, was the 19th overall pick in last year's draft, who is 21 years old, played last year with Stockton in the California League. For his, first taste of full season ball after the draft, made his debut in the Arizona League. But, even beyond him, Estuary Ruiz, a guy who we really liked through his time coming up, originally with the Royals organization, then in the Padres system, and now as a member of that A's organization. The other Max Muncy, the younger Max Muncy, who was a first-round pick back in 2021. Last season, really impressive, made it to high A with Lansing after getting started with Stockton. There's a lot in that system that you can really like. Their number 12 ranked prospect is JT Ginn, who was a guy who was a second-round pick of the Mets in 2020 and has some really impressive stuff. And, has pitched in some high-level competitions at the amateur level, on national teams, and making the climb up through college with Mississippi State. Even the mid-range prospects in the A's system carry a lot of promise. What it means as far as where the A's are, as a franchise, in a competitive sense, in a geographical sense, where the A's are in the next few years, who knows? But there is a lot of stuff to be hopeful about in that system. Tyler Soderstrom is probably the guy who you are most excited about, the 26th overall pick in 2021. For Soderstrom, he's 21 years old. Last year, he made stops at high A, double A, and triple A, and his numbers got better pretty much every step of the way. He only played 9 games at triple A, but he hit 297 against triple A pitching. The OPS was down compared to what he did at high A and at double A, but still, like the aptitude obviously is there to adapt and to continue to get better from step to step in the minor leagues. And you got a guy who's 21 and is that promising behind the plate and at first base defensively. and is good enough that you felt comfortable enough to trade Sean Murphy, there are a lot of things in this A's system to be really excited about. And that's something that A's fans, I feel like, really need to hear, because we're very mindful of the fact it ain't easy right now. It's not real easy sledding to be an A's fan at this stage.
Yeah. I mean, I know I mentioned with the Nats, you want them to have a top 5 system in baseball by the end of the year. I won't even put a number on it for the A's. Just have hope by the end of the season. You know, you mentioned Tyler Soderstrom. I don't think he's like the answer long-term at catching. I think part of the reason they made the trade is because Shea Langoliers who's graduated now, but like is a young guy.
Right.
Won't affect a farm system ranking or pop up on prospect lists anymore, but still like is major league ready, and they think can be the guy for multiple years and maybe turn into the next Sean Murphy. But yeah, Ken Waldichuk's probably already part of that rotation. He got major league starts last year. They took some big swings with that trade of Sean Murphy, betting on upsides of guys like Kyle Muller, who, you know, when he's on, looks like one of the best left-handed pitching prospects in baseball. It's just, we're not sure if he has enough control to start. Esteury Ruiz, incredibly fast, a pretty good defender. His arm's a little bit questionable. Did some really good work last year at improving getting on base. Okay, but is the power just going to be a complete downer? Is that going to deflate his value? The A's don't think that's necessarily the case. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago when the trade went down. Like they made a swing here thinking, hey, listen, if stolen bases are going to be more valuable than ever, Esteury Ruiz, who led the minor leagues in stolen bases last year, is going to have more value than ever. Like, let's get him on the base paths and just let him run around and just let him pick up extra bases that way. Let's get him on first base, turn a single into a double or a walk into a double, whatever. So they made some interesting choices. You just want at the end of this year for that to be a little clearer what they were trying to go for here. Have these guys, some of them, like I said, Waldichuk will definitely be with the major league team this year. Kyle Muller will in all likelihood be with the major league team. Ruiz is probably on the opening day roster. Tyler Soderstrom will be knocking on the door, if not making a second half debut.
Yeah.
Just have hope. Just have like the vision of something coming for 2024 at the end of the year. That's my hope for Oakland A's fans.
So those are our resolutions for 2023. You can get in touch with yours, podcast at milb.com, and let us know what you hope for your favorite teams, or for even the teams you don't like. We're not going to be picky. But they have to be nice resolutions. You can't be like, oh, I resolved that the, Houston Astros prospects all get lost on a desert island and it becomes a Lord of the Flies sort of thing. You can't do that. Although that would be interesting, and I would probably watch like a reality show on that.
That was also
like
very specific
series.
Yeah.
Well,
like you were reading out of your diary of some sort. Nothing against the Houston. We could play any team we wanted in there, but
I happen to have it. Yeah, it wasn't anything Astro specific. I happen to have the 2022 MLB standings open, and outside of the Zoom window right now, they were the first team that I looked at. Although I'm sure a lot of people would cheer for that when it comes to the Astros. Let's move on. Those as noted, you can get in touch, podcast at milb.com. Let us know your thoughts, your resolutions, your comments, and all of it. And Benjamin Hill stops by the show to talk all Ben Hill types of things. That's coming up next. Well, continuing along on this week's episode of the show, before the show, we are pleased to be joined from a conference room in New York City by one Benjamin Hill. Happy New Year, Ben. How are you?
Hey, Happy New Year, Todd. Man, my first sentence of 2023, and I messed it up. Happy Nelia. Happy New
Happy
Year.
Nelia. I like it.
I understand the Pennsylvania accent less and less each year.
Happy New Year, Tyler, and to Sam Dykstra sitting to my left. It's good to be back for another year of the podcast, 2023. I don't know what year that is on the Chinese calendar or any other type year of significance, but it's got to be special.
Yeah, I like that. I like that suggestion. Well, happy Nelia to all of you. And let's dive in. Let's talk about some things. First off, Ben, you've got a small child with whom you got to celebrate the holidays. Tell us how that was.
Yeah, it was a lot, man. I mean, I think I mentioned in the last podcast, lots of travel coming up for the holidays. Lots of divorced sets of grandparents between myself and Jill. So it was a whirlwind, but we made it work. And Harry's not even yet 2 years old, so I barely got him anything for Christmas because everyone else gives him stuff for Christmas, and we got too much stuff anyway. He kind of knows, Santa. He calls Santa something that sounds like CSAC, like CSAC. Okay. And I'm really looking forward to celebrating the holidays with him as a small child once he really kind of gets to understand the mythology behind it. I mean, on one hand, it's so ridiculous. We're so immersed in it from birth, just Christmas stories. But when you stop and think about these stories you're telling to kids, it sounds so ridiculous. But I found myself this year like watching, some Christmas specials with him that he's really too young to understand and being like, whoa, this is awesome. Like thinking of like who Santa is from the perspective of a child who would believe it.
It was just like trying to figure it out for the first time.
Yeah. Like, wow, that's awesome. This dude, whatever. We all know the story Santa, but just really getting in the childlike mind. So I'm looking forward to that in future years. But for now, he was too young to understand it all. We did the grandparent visit gauntlet. We made it through. We made it through everything. Okay. And well, Tyler, you got engaged, right?
I did indeed. Yep. I am. I somehow pulled it off. I don't know what she's thinking, but for me, it was a real accomplishment. For her, probably no lower moment in her life.
That's why you have pictures, though. We have documentation.
Exactly. You can't go back on it now. There's photo evidence of this.
Right.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it was not a low moment for her. And I bring it up just as I bring up almost everything to bring things back to me. I actually got engaged during the holidays as well.
Hey!
I mean, Jill and I have been together for 4 years, and we have a child together. So maybe it feels a little anticlimactic, but
no, that's great.
I did not know that. Congrats, buddy.
Ben is literally telling us this on the podcast.
Yeah, I didn't post it on social
breaking
media.
News.
I didn't tell anybody. Jill was like, "Are you going to tell anyone so I can like maybe post it on my Instagram?" I was like, "Ugh, we have to tell people now." I'm always been like, hey, I'm Gen X, buddies. I keep things close to the vest.
That is true.
So I will announce it on this national podcast
that gets tens of thousands of listeners every week.
Yeah, I guess what I meant by that is I feel weird with social media sharing things about myself, but I weirdly don't feel weird like on the podcast or talking. Like I feel like I can be open and honest or just conversational about just about anything within reason when I'm talking. But there's something about posting a picture and thinking about what to say. And then with social media, I think, well, how many of these people really know me? Am I just like bragging? But then I'm like, if I don't tell people, they'll be like, well, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah,
it's a tough balance. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong. I've always erred with personal matters on not really saying much.
Yeah. For me, it was kind of weird because I felt like, on Instagram, I'm private. I try to keep Instagram. This is not an invitation for anybody to add me because I'm probably not going to confirm you. On Instagram, I kind of try to keep it like, people I know and like. Twitter is just like whatever. It's, like I've been on Twitter for a long time and it's like a public. I didn't really want to post it on Twitter. Like I don't need everybody to. But then I felt like I sort of should because I didn't want her to think like, oh God, now I'm embarrassed about this. I got to post it on. I don't know. We live in such a stupid time. That's the moral of this story is that we live in a dumb time. Who cares? Nobody cares that I got engaged.
Yeah.
Well, I care about both of you very deeply. So
thanks, Sam.
Yeah,
I have nothing to announce.
And it goes.
There's not going to be any surprise.
Well, it goes without saying now, Tyler and I will work out the details, but we will have a joint show before the show.
Yes.
Wedding.
The wedding
with Sam
planning.
Dykstra as mutual best man.
Oh, I thought I was going to
and officiant.
I was going to bring out my
exactly.
card.
Mutual best man and officiant because we know that Sam is an ordained internet minister who can do these things. I did notice, Sam, that you posted either on Twitter or Instagram something about having been he's got his card with him, the Universal Life. Do you just carry that around?
Of course. I'm a card carrying member of the Universal Life Church.
Just in case you're like walking through Washington Square Park, you see somebody propose and you're like, Sam Dykstra, ordained minister, I can do this for you right now.
Here's my card. I will actually need that back. It is my only card.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, Sam will be mutual best man and also mutual I don't know, what do they call officiant?
Yeah. I accept.
Well, congrats, Ben.
1,000 times.
Huge congrats to you
and to you as well.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, it's good. We'll wrap up this week's episode of the show. No, I'm kidding. Let's talk about some baseball things as we get closer. And it's in January, it's like, are we really getting close to opening day? No, because everything's miserable from now until pitchers and catchers report, and even then, it's miserable for like another 6 weeks until opening day. That's how much I love winter. But we are, around the corner of the holidays. We have turned the bend into the approach to opening day, at least, and ballpark guides continue at MILB.com. And the Carolina Mudcats are up most recently from one Benjamin Hill. Carolina is a place that is kind of a unique setting in the minor league landscape. I know not a huge town, Zebulon, North Carolina. The Mudcats, formerly a Double-A team, they moved into what was then the Class A Advanced Carolina League as part of some of the dominoes falling around, teams moving from the California League to the Carolina League and teams shifting from Double-A and Low-A and High-A, whatever. I've never been there. They were admitted into the Carolina League the year after I left the Carolina League, but I've always heard really good things about that ballpark in Zebulon, even though from what I understand, it just like comes out of nowhere. Like you're just driving along a road and all of a sudden there's this huge baseball stadium surrounded by nothing. It sounds like a very unique setting.
Yeah, I've only been there once and it was a good 6 or 7 years ago, but now my memory is refreshed writing this ballpark guide. But it is definitely one of the more unique settings for a minor league ballpark. First of all, they're the Carolina Mudcats. There's like a combined 15 minor league teams in North and South Carolina. So talk about
cradle of minor league baseball, the Carolina.
Yeah, it's in the cradle, but you're like, where? Carolina? Okay, they're in Zebulon. And then even that, you're like, wait, where? Zebulon was chosen strategically. This is a team that moved from Columbus, Georgia. They rebranded as the Mudcats for their final couple seasons in Columbus, Georgia. And then they moved to Zebulon, North Carolina, and this was strategic. North Carolina, the cradle of minor league baseball, lots of teams. Maybe one of the problems with lots of teams is that each team has its own territory. So Zebulon was strategically chosen because it's just outside the territorial rights of the Durham Bulls and the Greensboro Grasshoppers.
Interesting.
So, and it's still only maybe a 25-minute drive from Raleigh. It's, near a lot of North Carolina population centers. So they can draw, they have a market in which to draw, but they're in a town, Zebulon, which is a fast growing town when I was looking at the population. But even by that standard, I mean, it grew from like 2,000 people to 10,000 people over the last couple of decades. It's still a small town. And that's my memory of visiting there the one time I did, feeling like I was in a pretty rural environment. And all of a sudden, like, wait, I'm only like a mile away from the ballpark. What is going on here? And then bam. And it is a ballpark, lots of places to park, a big lawn outside where there was a scout camp out going on, which I think they do quite a bit. So there's just lots of open space around the ballpark, and they can draw from, just outside of Greensboro, just outside of Raleigh-Durham, and so on and so forth. Of course, you can always go on tangents with this. One small tangent I want to go on is, when they rebranded to the Mudcats, that was when they were in Columbus, Georgia. First of all, the Mudcats back in the early 90s was that's a crazy, zany, irreverent team name by early 90s standards.
With the logo, too. Like, for whatever reason, that was just one of those stunning ones of the early era of minor league baseball rebrands.
Right. It's one I wrote a story about, and we've certainly talked about before. But the Carolina Mudcats were kind of like a pre-internet viral sensation on the logo front. And a lot of it was through like ads in like Sporting News or like USA Today, Baseball Weekly. But they sold a ton of merchandise outside of Columbus, Georgia, and later Zebulon, because it was such a distinct logo. And of course, a mudcat is a slang term for a catfish. But they had a name the team contest before they became the Mudcats. And, the other selections or nominees for the name the team contest, Generals, Cannons, those are both kind of boring. River Rats, which is, again, by late 80s, early 90s standards, pretty unique name. And then also Scrambled Dogs. And that's because Columbus, Georgia, at least at one of their restaurants, but maybe a couple, Scrambled Dogs is a culinary specialty where you like chop up hot dogs and cook them with a whole bunch of things and serve them as a scrambled dog platter. And even though the Mudcats, relocated to Zebulon from Columbus, Georgia, I still feel that Scrambled Dogs, just to recognize that was one of the choices in their name the team contest, that the Mudcats should still unveil a Scrambled Dogs alternate identity, because I think that would get some traction and it'd be pretty cool, and serve up scrambled dogs at the ballpark. But wow, scrambled dogs is a team name suggestion in like 1989. That is like that's like the avant-garde right there. That's like Velvet Underground putting out their first album and all the hippies being like, what? They're on a whole nother level with like how far they're pushing the boundaries. Anyhow, and it's 5-county stadium because the ballpark is within very close proximity of 5 counties. It is, man, I had it all pulled up. Which are the counties? Yes, you want to know the 5 counties in 5-county ballpark. Wake, Franklin, Nash, Johnston, and Wilson. The ballpark itself is in Wake, with Franklin, Nash, and Johnston all within 1,500 feet. So you're not in a very big town in Zebulon, but you are in extremely close proximity to multiple counties as
1,500 feet.
Yeah, that's what it says. And I was going off
crazy.
I was going off the blog post I wrote about that. We'll have to look at a North Carolina county.
I mean, I guess that's like a quarter of a mile, but that's like 5 counties within that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my facts check out right there. And the ballpark opened in 1991 in July. And on the first day of the season, they were still installing seats, and workers who were installing seats were also serving as ushers, bringing fans to their seats at the same time.
That is
Talk about like a crazy way to open a ballpark. Anyway, now here it is, more than 3 decades later, still the home of the Carolina Mudcats. As Tyler mentioned, it gets complicated. They were a AA team, and that AA team moved to Pensacola and became the Blue Wahoos. And in a corresponding move, they became a Carolina League team when the Kinston Indians moved to Zebulon. It gets complicated, but at any rate, there's been the Mudcats in one form or another for over 3 decades, and pretty cool, quirky stadium. Another thing about it, we talk about netting, foul pole to foul pole netting. It's kind of a new thing or something that teams are still adapting to, but 5-county stadium has had it since virtually the beginning, but it only protects the lower level of the ballpark, and there's more seats on the upper level. So it's a very strange configuration there, that the upper level seating bowl is larger than the lower level seating bowl. And it's really hard to think of many minor league ballparks that have that particular architectural quirk. I think of Mobile. There's no longer a team there, the Bay Bears, but Hank Aaron Stadium had that as well, a kind of small lower level seating bowl and then more seats on the upper level. So it's a unique place. Big water tower in left field with the Mudcats logo, and it says Zebulon on the water tower as well. I remember that's like a real distinct thing about when you're watching a game, seeing the water tower. You're just thinking about life in all these disparate counties that are so close, so nearby. And interesting spot. And of course, you can get catfish at the ballpark because they're named after a catfish. And
hopefully
you can get
sans mud.
Yeah, no mud on this sandwich.
Mud on the catfish sandwich.
Clean catfish
for the Mudcats.
Yeah.
Also, Zebulon's town slogan, town motto is "The town of friendly people." And
there
now you know.
There you go.
Now you know.
And I think Zebulon is last on an alphabetical list, not just in today's minor league landscape, but in any town in America to ever host a baseball team.
That is fantastic. That is the stuff that I
remember trying to look that up. Oh, no, I found an independent team that played briefly in Zion, Ohio.
Okay.
But I don't think there's ever been an affiliated team further down alphabetically than a team that plays in Zebulon.
We need a Zootroy.
Yeah, or Zizerix.
I was gonna try to be all cool and look it up real quick and see what the last town alphabetically in the United States was, but now it seems as though it's going to take way too long. So never mind. We'll just pretend that it's Zion, Ohio. Let's continue, Ben, and talk about. You mentioned the scrambled dogs as a culinary recipe somewhere in the South. That actually segues us quite well to point number 2 that we're going to discuss with you today, which is the Akron Sauerkraut Balls. Now, last year we talked with the Akron Rubber Ducks about an alternate identity that they were going to do. They're going to be the Akron JoJo's for a time last year, which is a seasoned potato thing. And then I found out that there's a restaurant in Fort Collins, Colorado that serves JoJo's. I still haven't been there. to try them. They sound delicious. What on earth is a sauerkraut ball? What is happening here?
Yeah, I mean, hey, New Year's Day hit on Sunday, January 1st, as it turned out, New Year's Day. And that morning, the Akron Rubber Ducks announced their Sauerkraut Balls alternate identity. They'll be playing as the Sauerkraut Balls on August 18th. The reason they announced this on January 1st, Sunday, January 1st, is not really a time you'd think a team would make news. But New Year's Day is apparently when Akronites and people in Northeast Ohio writ large are most apt to eat sauerkraut balls on New Year's Day. And what is a sauerkraut ball? A, quote, small breaded and deep fried sphere of sauerkraut and ground pork, most commonly seen on tables on New Year's Day. They didn't really announce too much more information about sauerkraut balls in the press release, so I did a little digging. I found a public radio segment on sauerkraut balls from a few years ago, which actually mentioned ham and ground beef as the two most popular meat fillings, not pork. And the sauerkraut ball logo, it's being dipped in a sauce. This little round sauerkraut ball is being dipped in a sauce, a red sauce. So you might think, is it ketchup? Is it marinara? The Akron Rubber Ducks just mentioned that they'll be paying tribute to the many different dipping sauces that people like to use for sauerkraut balls. The public radio segment I found mentioned cocktail sauce is the most popular option. So is this sauerkraut ball in cocktail sauce? We don't know that yet. We don't really know what other sauces are popular, or some people might like them, plain. Naked, I believe, is the term for a sauerkraut ball, not dipped in anything.
Please do not Google naked sauerkraut balls. Please.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler.
Or hold us responsible for having done so. Whatever you do on your free time is your.
That is true, but don't do it on a work computer and say oh, these guys on this minor league baseball podcast told me to.
Yeah, but what you want to do in your spare time is your own business. But I know that in our spare time, we will be learning more about sauerkraut balls. We have a lot of time all the way up to August 18th when this takes place to learn more about them. Last year, we had Rubber Ducks, team president Jim Fander on the podcast talking about the JoJos. Maybe we can get him back on later on to illuminate us on sauerkraut balls. I think we are all united in that we like learning about these regional food items, especially when it's an item that we collectively are like, I've never heard of that before in my life. And now it's going to be a minor league logo. So it's always fun. And definitely Akron, almost first alphabetically. Oh, wait, are they first alphabetically in all of minor league baseball? At any rate, they were the first.
Aberdeen.
Oh, Aberdeen. Yes.
Good job.
Thank you, Tyler. But I think they're two. Anyway, they were the first to announce a alternate identity in 2023 on New Year's Day. Happy New Year, and please celebrate responsibly with a sauerkraut ball.
Is there anything else that is like a New Year's Day food stuff?
Oh, yeah. I feel like they're all from the legume family. Beth, my fiance, it's her family's thing, and I know this is a very common family thing, but they eat black-eyed peas on New Year's Day. I know lentils are also really big. That was when I was a kid. Our family, we did lentils every once in a while. Sauerkraut balls, I've not heard of.
Yeah, that's a Northeast Ohio thing.
Should we tweet at LeBron? He didn't respond to us about the JoJo's thing.
Yeah, second time's a charm. We do know that LeBron James likes JoJo's. We found an Instagram post in which he was drinking rosé and JoJo's and eating JoJo's.
And the rosé was obviously worth more money than all of our salaries combined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm sure LeBron, second time's a charm. We will get LeBron on the record about sauerkraut balls.
Okay. I'm definitely going to go find it and tweet at him right now. Because that's a productive use of my time. All right, Ben, one final point and one sort of oddity, let's say, on the minor league landscape is that in 2023, for the second consecutive year, we will not have a new minor league ballpark opening in the country. And this is extremely rare because it was extremely rare in 2022 when we had nothing opening. And you've not really been able to locate a year in recent memory in which no ballpark opened, much less 2 consecutive years in which no new ballpark opened.
Correct. I mean, this is a kind of recurring question we brought up on the podcast. I brought it up on Twitter through the years. It is really hard to ascertain this. When was the last time that no ballpark opened prior to 2022, let alone 2 years in a row? It seems simple, but it gets murky really quick because you go back so far that you think that you're just looking at all active ballparks and you're like, okay, no, none of the active ballparks opened in 1991. So that was the last year. Then you start to realize, oh, wait, this ballpark opened then, but the team is no longer there, or moved, or that ballpark's no longer, in operation. So I just kept going back further and further. I put together a spreadsheet I wish I'd been able to find now, but a couple of years ago I put one together, and I believe that one went back to 1987, where I could find at least one ballpark that opened. And then I'm thinking, okay, it's got to be 1986, but then be like, wait a second, Fairgrounds Field, the home of Shreveport's Texas League team, opened in 1986. Okay, so a new ballpark opened in 86. 1985, Richmond's the Diamond. That's still around. 1984, surely none opened in 1984. Or wait, no, the ballpark in Old Orchard Beach, Maine, home of the Maine Guides, opened in 1984. This is what happens.
Josh Jackson and I just had an extensive voice note conversation surrounding the Maine Guides the other day, so I'm very glad to hear that brought up.
Yeah, and when I visited Josh, when we went to the Portland Sea Dogs game this summer, we made a detour to Old Orchard Beach and saw that ballpark, which is no longer used professionally, but still, in use. So cool to see that. But this is the trickiness of this question. So this is the lead item in my newsletter, and there's also Sauerkraut Balls information in the newsletter. Please subscribe to the Ben's Biz Beat. But I'm just trying to find the last time that no minor league ballparks opened in the season prior to 2022, 2023. It has to be out there, but I cannot get that information definitively, let alone 2 seasons in a row, which we are right now. And in terms of no new ballparks opening this year, it is the second year in a row that happened. But for me, and I'm probably a lot of other people, last year didn't feel like there was nothing new to see because we had 9 new ballparks in 2021 between 6 that were open that year and then 3 formerly independent ballparks. So that was a lot to digest over the course of 2021 and 2022. But now, for the first time in my career, I'm looking at starting a season having been to every ballpark on the active landscape, and it's a little strange. Things are slowing down, and got to figure out a way around this. How do we keep things new and fresh? But as I've said before, there's a lot of ballparks I haven't been to in a long time, so I'll figure it out.
And there's also a lot of construction going on. I mean, we're going to talk about this, I'm sure, a lot this spring going into the new season. But there's like a lot of construction going on, both to meet standards that have been set by MLB, but also just teams trying to keep things fresh in their own ballpark. So the structure might still be there, but there'll be new things to see.
Right. And that's something I hear from teams quite a bit when I have the inevitable, like, oh, I'm overdue for a visit. Often hear some variation of like, well, why don't you hold off until 2024 or 2025? Because I think teams are really looking, down the line to, new realities for their facilities based on, upgrades, renovations, et cetera, et cetera. Will there be a new ballpark in 2024? Probably not. It's
crazy.
You feel like we would know at this point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the one that I believe is most on track, but still is much more likely for 2025 would be Knoxville. Tennessee Smokies maybe going back to Knoxville proper, where they were before they moved outside of Knoxville to Kodak or Sevierville or whatever town it is that they play in now. I believe that's next on the docket. We've had a lot of talk about, Chattanooga down the line. I know Eugene's been looking for one. They're trying to figure that out down the line. Richmond perpetually for the last decade plus, but I think they're getting closer, and so on and so forth. I do believe that, as the decade progresses, we will start to see a lot more. But I think obviously the combination of COVID and industry reorganization and just a lot of uncertainty in the industry has kind of brought things to a halt in a way that I've never seen in my professional career. And I think teams right now are looking for both their short-term and long-term options, and both in terms of getting up to standards and then big picture, like, is this a place where we can be up to standards and that we want to commit to for the long haul? So I think anytime there's a lull, in life, it just means that later on that lull will end and things will get really hectic again. So cyclical. For everything there is a season. How's that biblical verse?
Turn. There is. Okay, I'm not going to sing the Mamas and the Papas. Is that who sings that?
That's
song?
the Birds.
The Birds. Dang it! My 1960s musical knowledge. due to it being a full generation before my birth. Not really up to par. Benjamin Hill, you can find on Twitter at BensBiz. He's on Instagram at TheBensBiz. The freshly engaged Benjamin Hill. Congrats, buddy. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
And congrats to you, Tyler.
Thanks, man.
Freshly engaged.
We'll talk to you, coming up.
LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Miners. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Miners, in which all of you out there in Radioland must identify the legitimate historical ball club hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One gave fans a good show. The others were expressly created for this show. In the last segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball teams did at one time exist. A. The Fort Pierce Blackbeards. B. The Omaha Robin Hoods. C. The Columbus Magpies. If you blinked, they escaped your notice, but you sure would have been lucky to catch a glimpse of the Omaha Robin Hoods, who made Marion the Western League of 1936. They tried to make Marion the Western League of 1936, but a series of misfortunes stole away the promise of a rich season for the poor Omaha faithful. Aww. Nebraska's largest city had a history of pro ball dating back to 1879 and a franchise and an iteration of the Western League as far back as 1885. However, the scene got a bit depressing in the 1930s. The team was called the Omaha Packers for the first half of the decade, but during the 35 season, the Packers, who hadn't had cause to pack for a trip to the playoffs since 1930, gathered up their belongings and moved to Council Bluffs on June 25, where they played as the Council Bluffs Rails until the wheels fell off the wagon entirely and the team disbanded on August 27. But in 1936, the owner of the Western League's Keokuk team, one Larry Harlan, saw the opening in Omaha and moved his team there, getting sponsorship from the Fontanelle Brewing Company, whose major product was Robin Hood beer, a brew that was said to really hit the spot. Concession stands of the era weren't known for variety of choice. They weren't usually well stocked, not in ham, nor in vegetarian options. But with a brewery for a partner, the Robin Hood's ballpark bathrooms needed to be spacious. No Little John would do. Given the recent financial trouble of the Omaha Packers, the Robin Hoods sought to assure local fans and advertisers they weren't out to steal anything from anybody, except wins from opponents. In an unconventional business move, Harlan and his partners refused to sell season tickets except for agreeing to such an arrangement for box seats specifically upon request. Harlan told the Sporting News, "The big difficulty here in the past has been that the club has folded up either in mid-season or late in the campaign, leaving a lot of people holding the sack. We are changing all this. People holding season tickets and signboard buyers and other advertisers will pay strictly on a per-game basis. The upfront and honest policy paid off for the team named after a bandit, as Fontenelle recruited about 12,000 members to the Robin Hood's Booster Club, and fans did come out to see a roster that included Keokuk veterans George Wise, Ed Williford, and Joe Spatafor, along with promising Western League newcomer Bill Swinger. But it was unheralded Dutch Prather who ran away with the league lead in homers, 22, and runs, 102. Alas, by that time, the Robin Hoods were already gone. They might have been better named after Friar Tuck, as fire at Omaha's ballpark forced the club to move to Rock Island, Illinois for the remainder of the year on August 18. Now known as the Rock Island Rocks, they thudded down to a fourth-place finish, 62 and 64. And that's how the Robin Hoods got busted. Now, on to the question for next time. Which of these teams had a European flavor in the minors of yesteryear? A, the Hanover Saxons. B, the Stowe Alps. C, the Oswego Netherlands. Want to know the answer? Get a passport. Or tune into the next Ghosts of the Minors. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill is sticking to his New Year's resolution, and I've got to peel him away.
Well, a huge thanks as always to Josh Jackson for stopping by the show before the show on this week's episode. Before we get out of here, Sam, I have to tell you about something very exciting. Are you ready? Are you ready?
I am ready.
Caps, hats, lids, headwear, beanies, noggin warmers. I'm going to start calling them noggin warmers constantly. Calling all cap collectors and enthusiasts, National Hat Day is coming on Sunday, January 15th, and the official minor league baseball store is celebrating with sales all week long with your favorite MILB teams, Copa, theme night identities, Marvel, you name it, we got it. Mark your calendars for January 15th through the 20th. Come spin the discount wheel, find your deal, and you could win a $100 gift card to the MILB store at MILBstore.com. No purchase necessary. National Hat Day, January 15th. I know how excited you are.
Somebody was talking to me.
Being the hat guy among the two of us.
Oh, I know. Well, that's what I was going to say to you was somebody was talking to me the other day. They were like, oh, you seem to have a lot of hats. And I'm like, I have a decent amount of hats. And like, what do you do with them all? I'm like, I just put them off to the, like, I have a thing on my drawer, like behind my TV. That's where my hats are. And I was starting to think I need to get a hat wall like Tyler.
Yes, you do. You absolutely need to make a hat wall, Sam. This is all, very financial forward, investment minded people do, especially in New York City. You rent a place. Landlords love when you pound a ton of nails into walls and hang hats. It's a great investment.
I know. That was my first thought too, is like, I need to do this so I can be better organized. Also, my landlords are going to hate me, but it's okay because I have too many hats now.
That's their problem. That's not your problem.
Yeah. I've got like a New Hampshire Uncle Sam hat.
Yeah. It's
just like having around. I got a Arizona Fall League hat this year.
Yep.
I got a Durham Bulls hat that I actually do wear everywhere because a lot of people like to bring it up as a conversation piece.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I recognize that. What is that from? And then
Durham is a very recognizable one. Yeah, right. That is true.
So my collection grew a good bit last year, and I'm sure it will grow again in 2023. I'm trying to do a thing where I get a new hat everywhere I go. So we'll see.
I'm very familiar with that. I'm very familiar with that thought process. So January 15th to the 20th, check out MILBstore.com. And that'll do it for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. We're actually recording our closed segment before we record like half of the show because I didn't want to forget to do the hat read. So Dan Marinas, our good buddy at Minor League Baseball, you are welcome. For Josh Jackson, Benjamin Hill, and Sam Dykstra, my name is Tyler Vaughn. We'll talk to you next week.